Hello and welcome to this video where I share some examples of a hybrid model of teaching in secondary curriculum. My name is Associate Professor Sarah Prestridge and I'm from Griffith University in Australia. We understand hybrid teaching to be that mix or blend of those two learning spaces, face-to-face and online. That both environments or both spaces offer different opportunities for learning, but the idea is that melding or blend or mix. The relationship matters when we're talking about hybrid teaching, and often that looks like in a classroom doing face-to-face with online activities across your unit of work or learning week in your subject domain. A model to help guide you is the digital teaching principles, and this emphasises some important key principles to use. One, it's often in the online space, it orientates better to an inquiry approach. So you're building students' capability to collaborate, co-construct, critique, question, while you're building relationships and you're using particular digital learning tools while establishing routines and procedures. A more deconstructed, more involved explanation of these digital teaching principles can be found on this website because after I created these digital teaching principles, I built 25 videos about how to teach in a virtual environment. So the digital teaching principles and a deconstruction of those is also available on that website there. Now let's get into some examples. So let's look at social science as one. This just gives you an insight into this relationship or mix of the online and the face-to-face in a classroom in a unit of work. So we might use as the digital tool an asynchronous discussion forum across a term or unit of study for the purpose of engineering student-to-student engagement. Now, I really do like asynchronous discussion forums because they enable choice, which is a key understanding of online learning. They orientate the teacher's role to a co-learner and modeler in that space. And they also give students the opportunity to make choices of when they're going to engage. Doing that sort of type of work needs to be deconstructed in the classroom though. So students searching for a topic on whatever you might be leading in your social science curriculum, but that's very teacher-led initially. So you might give them some boundaries and ideas on, the bigger inquiry question that you're asking the students to investigate, and they provide the materials and things to look at. Now you bring those examples in the classroom to pull apart their validity. The teacher questioning of the material in that forum as a co-learner role is highly important, and use of the material in inquiry context, so the modelling there. So you might then take some of those ideas that they've come up with in the asynchronous forum and build those into some classroom-based activities where you model how to actually do that. So transfer from one learning space to another. Yeah, I know this sounds simple and you probably would be doing this sort of type of work, but this leads to the greater understanding of what I do in those online asynchronous discussion forums, and it also leads to different roles that you take on as a teacher and co-learner in those spaces. So let's have a look at another example. And we'll look at English this time. It might be using a group collaborative space. So you might create small collaborative tasks with demonstrations given in the classroom environment, or they might be doing it in the classroom first for a time frame. It could be a week or done over a 2-week period. They might be given time to complete an online task in any of their time. That task can be compared and analysed back in the classroom, and that's a key process, is actually to bring whatever you've done in those collaboration spaces and really talk about it in the classroom, and then they get a second go at doing that sort of type of work. The structured feedback given to students on these collaborative whatever they do, tasks that they do, is really important to be led by the teacher, so that the teacher models how to do constructive feedback, and then the students are given a chance on a second iteration to actually do the feedback peer-to-peer or group-to-group. So, and actually then pulling those examples back into the classroom and talking about constructive feedback and what that looks like online. Mathematics. Could be a problem task that you give students at a period of time during the week, or that unit of work that you're doing, whatever formulas or concepts you're using in mathematics, you might want to apply to a problem task. So all the materials are available for the task in the online space. Teacher creates an instructional video to give to the students to follow. So in a classroom, you might walk in, start the lesson, students go straight to the teacher instructional video. The students work through the task in groups in the classroom, or you could have the first one might be teacher-led, but if you try just the students working in groups following the instructions on the teacher video, and then at the end of that lesson, you might do a teacher-led discussion of that problem process in class. So that would also involve how they understood that teacher video, what actual instructions they followed and didn't follow, how they interpreted the teacher video. So all those more nuanced ideas that we assume students might be doing and following our instruction through teacher videos, we actually talk about following that process in the classroom. Building students' whole class feedback, so that they're able to give feedback to each other. So this activity, in essence, might actually happen in the classroom, but they get better and capable of doing this independently and online. But that connection between the two, so they're doing that type of work online in the classroom, is clearly important. And the last example I have is a STEM, like a construction project. It could be a fully online module in class, and it's designed with increased choice in mind. So an idea might be using a quiz at the beginning of each phase of the module, so the students actually use the quiz as the way that they engage. Like when we do those quizzes that we have to do for our own professional development, we often use them to scaffold our way through the material. So letting students do that in a gamified choice. One idea might be for students to use the quiz, but if they reach a certain outcome from the quiz, they can move on to number 2. If they don't, they have to move through the first module. So, that's a way to sort of give students some sort of choice as well through the task. You might have a modularized task that involves teacher and peer feedback online. So instead of just doing these online modules where students work independently, part of the work that they have to do is that they could actually work in groups in the class to do the modules, or they can actually do some collaborative work across groups through the module. So as part of the movement to module online would be some collaborative space work that they would have to do. And a block of working periods, say 4 lessons, 2-week periods where they get greater choice and autonomy. So they might actually have this sort of type of work going across a longer period of time. So they have greater opportunity, to complete the task, and it's also embedded in the classroom work. So one of the key capabilities of working in this hybrid mode is to build students' capability to learn in the online space. We often think students are familiar with these social mediated spaces and online spaces, but they're familiar in a social manner, not in a learning manner. And we have to get students in these online spaces working together, so that's student-to-student engagement. And we do that by helping them do that type of work, by modelling by having teacher-led that often works towards student-led understanding of student-to-student engagement. So teacher work and modelling comes first so that students see how it's done, and then they start to build the capability of having constructive feedback, for example, to each other. But it has to be led initially by the teacher. Anyway, this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for listening. And there's a QR code for other videos and the URL if you'd like to click on these. Thank you.